First, I'd like you to help me welcome Lorraine Marcel from Bitcoin Data. Janet Maingi from Gridless. Yeah. Neftine from Bitcoin Plus Plus. MBE Hanan Ibrahim from Groundswell Project. And last but not least, our moderator, Charlene Fadirepo from Satoshi Sister Circle.
Here come the mics. Good morning, Bitcoin Nairobi. Okay. Before we start, I'd like for all the ladies in the room, just wave your hands for me. Okay. So I just want to give yourself a round of applause because I've been in the Bitcoin space for 5 years, and this room has more ladies than your average Bitcoin conference. Kudos to the organizers. Like you heard, my name is Charlene Federepo. I'm the founder of Satoshi Sister Circle. We are a career and leadership organization focused on getting African women jobs in the Bitcoin industry. We have a great discussion today. Ghanaian socialist Dr. James Agri once said, if you educate a man, you're educating an individual. But if you're educating a woman, you educate a whole nation. And we have an incredible panel of women that are doing the work in the Bitcoin space, both from the education standpoint and the teaching standpoint, and actually living and working in Bitcoin. So I have Hanan Ibrahim from Groundswell and Bitcoin She Leads, Lisa Nigut from BTC++ Space 58, Janet Mengi from Gridless, and Lorraine Marcel from Bitcoin Data. So you've kind of already heard a little bit about our panelists. So we're going to jump right into our questions. So ladies, if you care to share any more about your background, feel free. But the first question is, tell me what financial inclusion means to you in your current work. And we'll start with Hanan.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. Financial inclusion for me is about dignity, number one, and then access and opportunity. For example, my community, if they want to open an account, they cannot open an account because they don't have IDs or passports because of the vetting system. So if they make it easy for them, then it will be okay. But for me, I think Bitcoin is the only solution that can help them, to come, and to get, money in their own wallets.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Lisa?
Yeah, so when I think of financial inclusion, I know my background is more on the technical side. I really think about it from the perspective of understanding and having knowledge and information. I think with Bitcoin, particularly, especially because it's like decentralized or, you have this aspect of it's possible to be truly self sovereign and hold it yourself. I think in order to get there, you really need an understanding, maybe not of exactly what's happening whenever Bitcoin gets sent from one person to the next, but I think that that really helps people, and understanding and having it gives them confidence, I think. So when you understand something, you have confidence in your ability to use it as a tool. And I think that the more understanding we can get into communities, and even to individual holders, it becomes more inclusive.
Got it. Janet?
So Gridless is in the mining space of Bitcoin. And basically, we are focusing on bridging the energy poverty gap. So while we're doing that, then obviously we start creating economic opportunities because schools get electricity, hospitals get electricity, grocery stores get electricity. So when you think from that angle, then there's economic opportunities that are being created in these communities that before did not have access. And that for me is that what becomes financial inclusion.
Got it.
Awesome. So I think I'll just agree to what the other panelists have said. And onto my own, I would say financial inclusion for me is the ability to have options as a woman, right?
Yeah.
Whether is it, do I have the ability to get credit? Do I have the ability to inherit property? Do I have the ability to actually get a job that I do want because of my skills or the value that I bring to that particular industry? So basically, for me, financial inclusion means women having the same options as any other gender outside.
Yeah, I agree. And what I love about what all you said is that it all kind of is very complementary: sovereignty, understanding, economic mobility, and then optionality. So giving women the power of choice. That is what financial inclusion is, and that's what Bitcoin does. So let's take a moment and find out a little bit more about the work that each woman is doing on the ground. So let's start with Lorraine. So Lorraine, Marcel, you educate, you train, you upskill women all over Africa in the Bitcoin space. I'm curious, when that first woman walks into that Bitcoin data door, what are some of the misconceptions they have about Bitcoin? And then after they've moved through your program, how are they different?
Well, there are a couple of misconceptions, but I think the one that really is common with every cohort or with every woman that comes through our pathway is Bitcoin is a speculative tool.
Mhm.
So they come in thinking that, after doing this particular pathway, by the time I'm done, I'm going to be a millionaire. So, and I guess this is true because how Bitcoin is marketed, quote unquote, outside here online, that is what we see with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it actually does make sense. And especially to somebody who is, again, seeking financial freedom. So that's the first attraction to them. If I can get out of this particular hole that I'm in through Bitcoin, that I want to be part of this ecosystem. So what changes is that they start understanding, and I normally say Bitcoin is the best educator. It helps you unlearn some of the lies that we've been taught, right? And now you begin to learn how the world works, and especially from the economic standpoint of view. So they move from Bitcoin as just a currency to Bitcoin as as an ecosystem where they can come and create value and be economically empowered. So they come in thinking they come out thinking, okay, what value can I contribute in this ecosystem? Can I become a leader? Can I become a open source contributor? Can I build? Can I educate others as well? Can I do a circular Bitcoin economy as well? Right. So it shifts their mind from I need to trade, I need to have some form of money to actually can contribute value and earn from that. I think the other thing that really excites me is the fact that they realize that they do not need to have like a ton of Bitcoin or like one full Bitcoin for them to be able to fully participate. And then what we're seeing now them with doing now with Bitcoin is them starting to create like their own generational wealth, because we all know that with Bitcoin you can buy as low as $10 for yourself.
Thank you. Switching gears, and I know I want to hear more about that, but we'll come back. So, Janet, mining, you're in Bitcoin mining. It is a male dominated industry. Janet, you might even be one of a handful of women that are at Gridless, which is probably the biggest African Bitcoin miner in Africa. Is that right? Tell me, how hard is it to bring more women into the fold? And what are you all doing? And where have you seen success into supporting women that are moving into the Bitcoin mining industry in Africa?
Okay, I think the misconception is everybody thinks of Bitcoin mining as engineering.
Hmm.
And so it becomes a mindset where I can't do this because it's engineering.
Right.
But there's many more opportunities in a Bitcoin mining company. So you have finance, you have marketing, you have customer service, like you have other verticals within the company that would make sense. So for example, in Gridless, we're not a big team, but 40% is women in the company, right? But because I'm the visual person everybody sees, you think you need to be an engineer. I have no engineering skills.
Did you say 40% though?
Yes,
That's
40%.
amazing. Okay.
I cannot code to save my life. I've been in the tech space all my career, 20 something plus years. But it's just because you embrace the technology, you figure out what your strength is and you do it. So people need to get out of the mindset that Bitcoin mining, you have to be an engineer.
Mhm.
There's many more opportunities within the space that you can contribute in.
That's a good point. So if there are ladies in the room that are interested in Bitcoin mining and they're not developers, I mean, there's an opportunity. 40% is pretty huge for any tech company. So thank you, Janet. Okay, let's go to Lisa. Base 58, Bitcoin plus plus. Bitcoin developer space is mostly male dominated, but you've had success in building your conferences and bringing women into the fold. Can you talk about some of the things that have worked and kind of what you see how you all have been successful in supporting women in the Bitcoin developer space?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I've done much specifically to support women in particular.
Yeah.
But I definitely benefited, I think, from there was a period I would say around 27, 2018 where people who were already working in this space were really invested in making sure more women got into Bitcoin. And that happened to be the period that I was looking to get into the space. And so I think I was kind of lucky and that I was sort of in the right place at the right time. One of the things that I like to think about Bitcoin Plus Plus and Base 58 that makes it more welcoming, we're not specifically like focused on bringing more women in as a specific goal,
Yeah.
but I do my best to make sure that the women I know that are working in this space feel connected. So we have like a chat group of like women that are working in Lightning. When I'm running an event, I make sure that I send out personal invitations for people to come and talk. So it's doing the work to make sure that people feel included and seen. I think one of the hardest things about being a woman, not just in maybe Bitcoin development, but other spaces, is that I feel like it's just sometimes feel really hard to be recognized. And maybe that's not just women. I think everyone struggles maybe with
Yeah.
feeling like their work is valued. So one thing that I feel like is just, running an event in general is just letting people know that you see them, you know that they're there and they're working on stuff. And I feel like that additional just like outreach and attention and invitation. I feel like, when I got into the space, I feel like I got particularly invited and was encouraged to be there. And turning that is like making sure that people know that they're wanted in this space and there's a space for them is maybe the biggest thing that I can do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you're talking about, Lisa, is community, right? You've built an incredible dev community. I think Gridless has an incredible community around the African Bitcoin mining space and also Bitcoin data as well. Very good. Okay, Hanan, over to you. Tell me about, you're working kind of at the intersection of human rights and Bitcoin and community development. I want to help me understand how we can get women in out of the edges of Bitcoin, out of the edges of tech, and into the more policy and decision making roles based on your experience. And I know you have a wide range of experience. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, hello. Yeah, I'm very new in Bitcoin. I started doing Bitcoin last year.
Mhm.
I was introduced to Bitcoin in 2016 and I thought it was scam. I was in Somalia at that time.
Yeah.
But last year, my beloved Hadia, late Hadia, went to a conference in Oslo, I think. And then she called me and she said, wow, I have something good to talk to you about. Because I do a lot of work at the grassroots level. I started doing this work in London 2000 after the 9/11. 9/11, there's so many issues with, Islamophobia in the UK. And I never used to wear hijab myself. I used to walk without hijab, like a single mother raising her children freely, wearing jeans, going shopping. But then after 9/11, the backlash was so bad. So I met many ladies, who were wearing jalabib and they call it baibui, this black dress, being attacked on the streets. So I intervened, and that's when I started an organization in London. When I started the organization, I started in my kitchen. I didn't know anything about organization. I didn't know how to write proposals. My neighbor was a Jewish lady, and she told me, "Go for it. I'm going to help you. Just draft something and send it to me."
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and then I invited few people to come on the board. I formed the organization, and then we applied for funding. We got the funding, and the first thing that I did was educating those ignorant people who did not understand why Black people are in London. Because I received a hate mail telling me to leave, the UK. That go back to your country. You are Osama bin Laden, you're terrorist, and all those things. And I never used to wear hijab. So I believe that everything is about passion. When you're passionate about something, you will want to educate people. I decided to educate those ignorant who did not understand the reason that we were there, So I trained many women and I did a lot of training for young people. I did a lot of intergenerational skills, working with those children who are being recruited by ISIS and Al Shabaab, the murderers group. I told the young people to do creative, writing, write a poem, send something to Gaza if you're upset about what's happening. And the good thing that I did was inviting the policymakers, the parliamentarians, and the MP to come and talk to those young people. And what came out was foreign policy, you know. Uh, but the good thing again was those ladies started working, joining the labor market. They were not taking benefit, raising their children. And the work that I was doing, bringing the community together, it was like, integration. And another thing that I did, which I'm very happy, was working with 3 Abrahamic religion, because most of the time, these terrorists, they like to divide us, and we're all one race. And if you look at the books, we're all the children of Abraham. Why are we fighting? We should not listen to these, policymakers or politician who likes to divide us. We shouldn't allow these murderers to divide us. I made these ladies become, build their confidence and protect their children not to join these, murderers groups like ISIS, Boko Haram, and Al Shabaab.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
think you should run for office here. I don't know, maybe. Thank you, Hanan. So before we continue, I just want to ask everyone in the room, I guess in the audience and on stage, we're just going to have a brief moment of silence for Hadia Masih. She was the founder of Groundswell. We actually lost her unexpectedly last year. She was an incredible pillar in the Bitcoin community, and we just want to honor her legacy. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I know Hanan wanted to share a few words about Hadia. For most of us up here on the stage and maybe in the audience, she was a dear friend, and she just, was an credible pillar, and did a lot of work to empower women's voices in the Bitcoin space. So Hanan?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Hadia was very special. Hadia was very, very special to me and to everybody. And I want to give her justice because I wrote something about her and I'm going to read it.
Yes.
Hadia dedicated all her life to building stronger communities, challenging divisions, and empowering people through both local connection and financial resilience. Before founding Groundswell, Hadia spent many years working in counterterrorism. We worked together in London, helping vulnerable young people, including girls who were recruited by ISIS, jihadi brides, find a path back to safety and rebuild their lives. Through this work, she gained profound understanding of how extremist groups operate. She often reflects that hateful movements are highly organized in spreading their message and ask a very simple but powerful question. What if we become just as organized in spreading love, kindness, and hope? This led her to found Groundswell in 2019. Hadia believed in kindness are the antidote to hate and polarization, and that strong, resilient communities are our best defense against harmful influences. She also believed deeply that knowledge is power. If we want communities to thrive, we must equip people with knowledge, skills, and opportunities. They need to make informed choices and build better futures for themselves and their families. And we did training, Bitcoin training for some of the ladies here in Nairobi. And now we've also opened 3 businesses through microfinance to 3 ladies. One of them, she was outside yesterday selling mandazi, chapati, and tea. And another one is doing spices. And the other one, she does, children clothing. So a key part of vision was financial resilience. Hadia understood that economic insecurity can leave people vulnerable and limit their opportunities. She believed that financial freedom is fundamental to human dignity and empowerment, and that people should have access to tools that help them protect, grow, and control their economic future. She believes continue to shape our work today, including our focus on financial education, exploring how technologies like Bitcoin can support greater financial inclusion and resilience. Hadia's legacy is not just the organization.
Okay. Okay, free. Guys, this is important because we want to just honor the incredible impact she's had on the Bitcoin space. So please.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah. Hadia's legacy is not just organizations she founded, but the thousands of lives she touched through her commitment to community, freedom, and human dignity. Her vision continues to guide everything we do at Groundswell, building stronger communities, sharing knowledge, and creating opportunities for people to build more resilient and empowered futures. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry. Yes, yes, I think, yeah.
Just one more thing on Hadia's legacy. We all don't live forever, and I think all of us are working to make a legacy in the Bitcoin space. Hanan, I'd love to have your thoughts on how do we make sure that her incredible work is not erased.
The first way we honor pioneers like Hadia is by telling their stories.
Absolutely.
As community and ecosystem grow, it's important that we recognize the people whose vision, courage, and leadership help shape them. We have a responsibility to ensure that Hadia's legacy and the legacy of so many other women remains visible and continue to inspire future generations.
Thank you. To Hadia's family and friends, we definitely we appreciate the work that Hadia did in the space, and we will always honor her impact. Thank you guys for that. Can we just give it? Thank you. So I want to switch gears, and I have a question that I'd like for all the panelists to answer. And we've not talked about this. Let's talk about capital, right? Capital, in many cases, is the biggest barrier for women's nonprofit ventures, for-profit ventures, communities, getting them off the ground. I'd love to hear your thoughts on who should be funding women-led ventures, and what is not happening that should be happening in the areas of capital when it relates to women in the Bitcoin space. And this question is for any of my panelists.
Okay, I can go first.
Thank you.
I think everybody should be funding. So whether it's local investors, global investors, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin industry, everybody should be funding. But I think we also have to acknowledge that the Bitcoin industry is still very young. And I think it's Femi who told us during ABC, we need to stop building churches and move into factories. So capital follows success. So if we are building churches and then, you start 3 days, 1 month later, it's gone.
Right.
Then these other people will not have the same faith to invest in the same businesses. But if you're building factories that are living at track, so you've created employment, you're making profits, you're impacting communities, then again, people will be willing to invest in us. So I think at the end of the day, it's to remember capital follows success. So how do we make sure that Bitcoin sets up the right rails so that more companies are becoming successful and sustainable? And out of that, then more people have faith in the same industry.
Great. Thank you, Janet.
So what I can say is partially agree with Janet. Yeah, everybody needs to fund women-led companies and organizations, both the global and local, because the global has already benefited from, the ecosystem growing. But then the local capital also understands the challenges that we face, right? So the only gap that I'm seeing is the bridge between the global Bitcoin ecosystem of funders and the local capital. How do we bridge that gap? And the only way we can bridge that gap is by supporting the infrastructure. It's very easy, and this is a common thing in the Bitcoin ecosystem. I'm just basically the tech space. A lot of people prefer funding products as opposed to funding the infrastructure. And I would say this, and it's okay. Let's fund the products. They're the rails where Bitcoin move. But then you don't forget that it's the infrastructure that produces these developers. It's the infrastructure that produces these creatives. It's the infrastructure that produces these leaders. Minus that, then we would not have this ecosystem. So we need to be true to ourselves and say, okay, fine. The products that are being funded, we need them 100%. But how do we maintain that level of quality of these developers coming out? How do we maintain the level of quality of educators or creatives or innovators coming up, right? And the only way we can do that is if we bridge the global Bitcoin funders or general tech space and the local capital that we have, right? So that's my take.
Yeah, I like that. And I'll just want to add, that's interesting because I think if you look at the other Bitcoin markets, that infrastructure is already there and it's always been there. And so people assume that it exists in markets like Africa and other emerging markets, and it doesn't. And you're absolutely right, Lorraine. Okay, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, so I maybe just say like I'm not really sure about how to get more capital into Bitcoin and supporting developers. I know it's super important. I think when you look across the ecosystem, a majority of the capital these days, which is supporting a lot of Bitcoin development, kind of comes from very few number of big supporters that
Yeah.
have spread their money across a lot of different organizations. I will say that it is important capital and like having access to capital is expensive, or is it really important for open source development, particularly insofar as it buys you your time? So for a developer, like your time and your ability to dedicate to learning or to contributing to open source projects is probably the biggest asset that you have. And being supported, having your time paid for, so to speak, so that you're not having to spend like maybe weekends and nights learning and bootstrapping yourself and contributing so you can focus on it as your full-time thing is probably one of the biggest impacts that capital can have on the developer ecosystem. And we're still, I think, as an ecosystem, not really sure about how to create sustainable flows of funding for those.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I don't think people realize that most Bitcoin Core developers, they are completely grant funded. They don't have a full-time job. So if there is no, voluntarily money coming in, that work doesn't get done on behalf of Africa. And it's really important that we have Bitcoin Core developers that are based in Africa because they can solve African problems. So thank you, Lisa. Hanan, Capital, what are your thoughts?
I think my sister. Hello? Yeah. I think they all said it all, but I think one of the biggest challenges is that we often fund products before we fund people. Investors are willing to go technology, but they are sometimes less willing to fund education, community building, leadership developments, and grassroots engagements, even though that's where long-term adoption actually happens. If we want Bitcoin to reach more people, especially women and underserved communities, we need to invest in the organization and leaders doing the work on the ground, because there's so many people who are doing good work at the ground, grassroots level, and they're underfunded. So that's where local organizations like Groundswell and Bitcoin Data and AfriBit, where I went to visit them in Kibra, they're doing fantastic work. I had a session with those young girls who are here now, and they're really brilliant. They're doing fantastic work, and well done to AfriBit and so the important thing is, translating technology into real world impact and helping communities build knowledge, confidence to participate in the future economy.
All right, we have about 50 seconds left, and I have one more question. So, all my panelists, 5 years from now, what does success look like for women in the Bitcoin space? In a couple of words.
Okay, so sorry, I know you said a couple of seconds, but I'd just like to add on to the last question and say funding women-led organizations is not charity. Let that stick. Because I've seen that time and again, yes, it is not charity. If you fund Bitcoin Dada, that is not charity that you're giving me. It's because I have value. It's because my community has value. It's because my community has produced impact. And the same, all these ladies over here,
I agree.
there's a reason why they are here, right? So let's remove that mentality that funding women-led organizations is about charity.
And I will add something also, my sister. Women are backbone of the community.
Absolutely.
So I think organizations need to look at women who are doing all the work. You know, I mean,
Tell us.
we care about
Tell us.
families, you know? Honestly, you know?
Tell us, Mama.
And we get challenges every time. And
Every
we love
time.
the challenges, to be honest, you know?
Because they
we
make
like
us
to be
better.
challenged, yes.
Yes.
Because it makes us, you know,
More
fight
resilient.
more. Yeah, exactly. But again, one thing is, that's my own experience I want to share here. I remember when I was in the UK, I was invited to go to number 10 for the first time. And when I went there, the Prime Minister Gordon Brown was appointing a committee that was Muslim Women Advisory Group and Muslim Youth Advisory Group, so that they can help their families to prevent, you know, them joining Al-Shabaab or ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to number 10, I was the only Black woman in that room. And the group that he appointed, they're all Asians and one Irish Muslim. And I was very disappointed. So I went to the Prime Minister and I told him, Prime Minister Brown, where are the diversity here? I don't see any Africans, no Arabs, you know? And he was like, because his advisors, they are Asians. I told him, I'm going to write you a letter. And I wrote him a letter to explain the diversity within the Muslim community that they need to appreciate. We have different needs and different views. And then I received a letter from the PS asking me to recommend somebody who lives outside London, because I live in London. So they thought I was a troublemaker, raising those issues. And in my letter, I asked him, how did you advertise the appointment? And which gazette? If you can give me the number of the gazette that was, you know, advertised. And, you know, when I got the letter, I went to my local MP and I said, see, I received this letter from number 10, the Prime Minister's office, and I'm not happy. As a community activist, and I work with my community at the grassroots level, I will make sure that Labour Party will not come back.
Indeed.
Because you ignore the community. And I'm not joking. I mobilize the community, my African brothers, my Arabs brothers, all of them, my Jewish brothers, all of them, and women, I called them in my office and I told them we need to make sure we remove them from the power. Make sure we go out and vote. We don't care about whether they're conservative or the Green Party, you can vote anybody. And that's what we did. See? So, community mobilization is very important, and we should not depend on donor money. I think Bitcoin is the only way now that we can help our people at the grassroots level. Because and I'm sorry, my sister, with your president, Mr. Trump, he has cut all the funds. He's calling us shit country.
Oh my goodness.
So Africa is a rich country. I think we need to hold our hands. That's why we have this Bitcoin conference in Nairobi, and bravo to organizers. Thank you very much.
Let's give Hannah a hand. Thank you. Oh, wait, I think